Welcome aboard, everybody. Good morning on this Monday, November 2nd, one day away from voting. Get out there and vote. Get your word, get your vote, get your ideas, cast your ballot, get them out into the world, take charge, whatever you got to do, get out and vote. This is number 3 in my Mr. Bungle series, winding it down. This will be the last one, and it was an honor to have these guys on. Scott and Trevor, and now the great guitar man himself, Trey Spruance. Fantastic conversation with this man. I have never met him. I've seen him play live many times, and it was just great to get to sit down and pick his brain all things guitars. They have the brand new record. It came out Friday, The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo. And that is out right now. And there's still about, I think, 24 hours left where you can watch their live stream concert where they play a little Van Halen even, which was a knockout. I saw it and it just completely killed. It was great to talk to Trey, like I said. And it really brought up something in my mind. You want to talk old school. Old school would be demos. And as I talk to the guys of Mr. Bungle, I realize that is such a past history in music. That is something that'll never happen again. And really, really was part of an amazing organic way of spreading the word of your favorite band. Your band would scrape some change together. You would go in and you would record a 4-song demo, usually 4 songs, sometimes going to a college studio with some students recording you for free after hours, not knowing what they're doing. You're not knowing what you're doing, and it's just all exciting. And you sit down and you've got your songs on a cassette tape, and you can finally let your friends hear it. And it was not always good, but sometimes there was some gold, there was some magic on this demo tape. And people would get excited and they would put it in a dupe deck, a 2 cassette playing deck, sometimes a ghetto blaster, and make a dupe and send it to their friend. And thousands of times that would happen, and the resolution would slowly, and the fidelity would slowly disappear, but the energy and the excitement was still there. Oh my God, I've got the Mr. Bungle OU818 demo. I've got the No Life Till Leather Metallica demo. I've got the Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo. Just, demos from your favorite bands. I remember there's an Ice Cube lyric. It went from "Please listen to my demo" to "Get the fuck out my limo." It's some people just sit around and go, "What's a demo?" It's a demonstration of your music, recorded sometimes on 4-track Tascams or Fostex machines in a bedroom with some Mickey's Big Mouth around. And maybe a little reefer. Anyway, it got me excited to talk to these guys and think about the old days of demo tape trading. It's definitely different now, and I'm not the get off my lawn guy. I know you can get your stuff heard now on SoundCloud or YouTube or Bandcamp or however you do it. The initial idea is still carrying on. But there's something cool about that cassette tape with the handwritten description on it. Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, 1986. And then the song titles. Just so cool. Thank you guys for taking the ride of the Mr. Bungle series. It was way more work than I thought it was going to. I was like, I'll just do a series. And then I just realized, oh yeah, I have to edit it and record it, post it all myself. Holy shit, this is a lot of work. But it was worth it to me. It was worth it to me to talk to some real genius artists out there of Mr. Bungle. Before I do start the episode, don't forget I have a second podcast that is starting next week called The Grail with Dean Del Rey. And it is basically all my handmade episodes from Let There Be Talk will be under one platform now, one umbrella. And then there will be a bunch of new episodes weekly. And it's going to have its separate RSS feed on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. The Grail Podcast with Dean Del Rey has an Instagram also. Join it and look out for all the episodes on YouTube. Subscribe to all the platforms for me. Thank you. And don't forget about my Patreon. Most important, a lot of great supporters out there loving what I'm doing, and it means a lot to me. Brand new Patreoners, Coda, Scheffler, Laura Singe, Jeff Couch, part of the church family. Thank you, brother. Killing it with the super donation. Rob Cochran, John Pasella, Joe, just one name, Joe, Jerry Riggs, Lynn White from the London town. Love all you guys. Keep the candles lit. Here we go. A little Trey talk. Enjoy it. Long live Bungle. What's going on? Introduce yourself, my man.
Well, I'm Trey Spruance. I'm playing guitar for Mr. Bungle in this Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny thing. It's a throwback to our early years. Like, you know, when a band goes back to their roots and they're playing 12-bar blues and Led Zeppelin and that kind of thing, we're going back and playing kind of Slayer speed death metal type of stuff.
Yeah, that's got to be crazy on the on the body at 51, the right wrist, you know.
You're the first person that you know, nobody ever talks about that, but yes, I mean, I can remember the riffs like no problem, but getting that forearm to fucking go for an hour at 80 billion BPM, Jesus, yeah, that's you got to work up to that.
Well, I mean, when you're a kid, that's all you're practicing. You're in your bedroom, just, you know, and then, you know, 30, 40 years go by and you go, oh yeah, that stuff. Yeah, I can do that. And then one song in, you go, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like then it's seriously, it's after the first song. You're just like, how am I going to keep doing this? What the fuck? So that's what I'm not practicing riffs. I'm just practicing stamina, you know, which I've never done. I never practiced guitar ever, but I have had to rehearse this stuff a lot just to get the arm to be able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, just think like Hetfield, those guys never stopped touring other than COVID. So his right hand's got to be, you know, pretty in shape. And Scott Ian plays like crazy, but Scott told me that even when he dug into this stuff, it was like, wow, you know, it was messing with him.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's solid. He's kicked my ass because, you know, I know he puts the time in on it, and it's like, okay, I gotta, you know, at the very least, there's no way I can fail to be on top of it with him, you know. So I got to put the time in too.
Do you remember when you were first hearing that stuff like Slayer and you know, Metallica, and you sat down to learn that kind of galloping, hand palming, muting thing? Did it take you a long time to get it?
Yeah, I think the first time I palm muted was I was playing like Rat, you know, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And then when it was graduating to doing some upstrokes too was a big moment, like dugga, 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 keeping the hand on the palm on the bridge, you know. But, you know, it's weird. Once you do that a little bit, like I started just going lightning fast after in like no time, because it's just something about it when you're 13, 14, it's just this natural thing you want to do. You want to wiggle your hand as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah. Who who do you think came up with that? Because I talked to Kirk Hammond about it, and I really think, of course people go, well, Maiden was doing it, but to me, it seemed like Exodus, Bonded by Blood, was really the blueprint of the ultimate sound of the galloping,
That is a great point. There's something about the clarity and the cleanliness with that Gary Holt and what's that guy, Rick?
Yeah.
They just made it so lucid. I don't know what that was, but you're right. I think you're totally right.
Yeah, the tone of it was just straight up like, whoa, it's a bouncy gallop and it's perfection, man. There is no flaws in it when you listen to it.
Exactly. And it's also the difference between the Iron Maiden is like dun 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 or dun 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 dun. But for some reason the Exodus one's like dun 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 dun. It's more of a lilt to it.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
It is.
It is the blueprint of that Bay Area sound. When you hear it and it comes on, you're like, wow. I mean, I knew I just better become a singer because I was trying to get that kind of shit. And I was like, I'm not going to get this. I got the Charvel in the bedroom. I was like, I'll sell the Charvel, buy a PA. And no one wanted to sing,
Yeah, right. That's true. Nobody wanted to sing. That's like I guess I'll sing. I think it's so funny. Well, I mean, and if you look at the Bay Area too, it's so weird. Look at Possessed. It's absolutely not that kind of clarity, precision playing. But then you get to those solos, and it's just the craziest, most atonal, but also totally lucid atonality. Which it's just a completely different approach to the guitar. Also, I feel like Possessed invented the crazy whammy bar atonality freak out solo thing.
Oh, that kind of Slayer thing.
Yeah, I mean Slayer was doing it, but there's something about the way Possessed, I don't know, it's not just the dive bombs, but like somehow, I don't know if Morbid Angel was before that, but there's something in the air where a certain kind of soloing became divorced from harmonic reality in such an appealing way.
Yeah. I love that. I grew up in the Bay Area, and so it's so amazing, the music scene that we had. It's just kind of like the different, every night there'd be something great and it'd be totally different, to go see.
See, we were fucking jealous because we're 350 miles to the north of there. We knew about it. We were reading in the fanzines and stuff, and we were trading demo tapes with everybody. But it would be a rare thing for any of us to be able to get down and see a show, like go to Ruthie's Inn. Like we knew about it, but we couldn't go. We could go to the record vault and buy tapes. That
was so great.
But we were not participants in that. We just had a fantasy about the Bay Area thrash metal stuff, and we were sort of trying to create it in our bedrooms,
Did you see Murder in the Front Row?
No, I got to see that.
Oh, you got to see that, dude. You're going to love it because it is the ultimate documentary of that.
How can I have missed it? I have to see that.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about it.
Oh, you got to see it.
How perfect to take it from the Exodus, Bonded by Blood.
So great. And the coffee table book's fantastic too, to see that stuff. It's funny because I was talking to some people, a lot. I talked to Dave. I've known Dave for years, and Scott, and I come into Bungle, I guess around 88, 89. The OU 818 demo was just played the shit out of it in my car. And I do remember early on at like a Santa Rosa party, someone playing this first demo. And I was just kind of, like in and out, like, oh yeah, that's a band, Mr. Bungle, whatever. And then the next song came on, but I didn't know the origin until you guys fired this back up, that there was this full blown thrash metal demo. And it's amazing to me.
I mean, it's interesting because you yourself said it, like you heard that OU 818 demo. Now, why would people who are into fucking metal be hearing that demo and accepting it? If you think about it, it's kind of weird, right?
Well, I talked about it where I said I listened to everything. So I think that was from growing up in the Bay Area.
Exactly. And that's what's interesting about our sort of, our entry into the Bay Area in like 1990 or something. Santa Rosa was like the first place we got gigs outside of Eureka besides Portland. But even that music, if you listen to those demos, it follows a metal logic. I mean, it's not really funk. None of the music that we played even subsequently, when people talk about all the genres that we embraced, if you listen carefully, there's not really distinct genres. There's just, everything is definitely following a metal arrangement logic. It's just that there's more sophisticated instrumentation that we start adding and more harmonic information, but the metal aspect of Mr. Bungle never disappeared, no matter how, advanced or whatever things got. It always followed more of a logic of Merciful Fate.
Yeah.
Than like Les Bagster or, the Beach Boys. Even those songs, it follows more of a Merciful Fate logic. It just does.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Love is a Fist, that, and you're right, because I never really thought about it. And I was talking to Trevor about it, was Merciful Fate, because I asked him what your influences were for all the different parts in a song. Scott Ian said that it was definitely Zappa thrash metal. But you're right, because Merciful Fate would have their songs would take you for this journey. It'd have all these different parts, but they all sounded like, the song. It wasn't like, God, how many parts are going to throw in here? And that's how I feel about Bungle for sure.
It's the case. Yeah. That's the way to think of it. And we should have been, but we weren't listening to Frank Zappa. Like, none of us were Zappa fans. Bizarre, I know, but it's the truth. Like, none of us were into Zappa in the 80s, even the 90s. It's like something we discovered kind of later on, because keep hearing about it and everybody's saying, oh my God, you don't know about Zappa. Like, well, we didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I first started hearing about Zappa, I think, well, one was the Moon Zappa, Valley Girl, and the other was being at a Motley Crue show, and their intro tape was Cruise Slut, a cruise slut. She wants to be a cruise slut. And I was like, oh man, what's that crazy song? Somebody, oh, that's Zappa. And then I started getting into Zappa, but I was much more into what I also think has some flavor of you guys is some P-Funk and Bootsy and all that stuff. That Funkadelic stuff was just crazy acid funk.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt about it. That shift into the funk thing was very Bootsy driven. That's for sure.
When you start out guitar, do you start on guitar, and who gets you into it? I talk to most people, it's either Zeppelin, depending on your age, or Kiss, but that just seems to be what the key to the door is.
I have three, Van Halen for sure. And Scorpions. Scorpions was the first hard rock band I ever listened to. And weirdly enough, Devo, like when I was a little kid, I was really into Devo and the twang guitar stuff. So it was like, yeah. And then, I mean, the Scorpions have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to guitar players and interesting guitar ideas throughout their history. I mean, we're talking about like up to 1982. Like, I started playing in 83. So, listening to those records from the mid 70s of Scorpions, very formative for sure.
You started playing in 83?
I think 82. Yeah. Was when they picked up.
Wow.
I was 13 when I got my first guitar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just played trumpet before then.
I mean, the Scorpions are amazing because they have all these different eras. You got the Uli era, but then you get into the Zoo, and that was really kind of my era of the Scorpions. Everybody was, Tokyo Tapes and all that. But I mean, let's be honest, you don't get into that until you go backwards. But the Zoo and Love Drive, that animal magnetism, all that stuff is just mind-boggling guitar playing.
All of the guitars is just insane on every era. Like it is amazing. It's like I say, an embarrassment of riches. Unbelievable guitar playing.
Devo is definitely top 5 band for me of all time. I've had Jerry on the show, talked to him for 4 hours. Devo is so embedded in my brain. Skateboarding, BMX, Devo. And you know, the Saturday Night Live playing and you know, even New Traditionalists, which I think is a massive underrated record.
I agree. Yeah.
God, I've never seen him at Santa Rosa on that, you know?
It's like to be cool, you have to put, you know, Are We Not Men at the top of the list, or Summer Duty Now for the Future, which of course, those are great records. And because you hate the cheerleaders dancing around to Whip It, then you're supposed to hate Freedom of Choice. Like bullshit.
No
Freedom
way.
of Choice is so good. And New Traditionalist was also a great record. I agree with you totally.
Gates of Steel is by far their greatest song ever.
It makes me cry. I can't believe I cry. I cry when I hear Planet Earth. I cry when I hear Great Gates of Steel. It's amazing shit.
Dude, I just got goosebumps, man. It's so real, man. It
is.
You can't even believe it. And you know, watching Devo growing up, I saw Devo live so many times, and it really got me ready for things like Mr. Bungle when that came across my plate, you know?
That's really nice to hear. I have to say that's like, I mean, I think I'm the only Devo fan in the band.
Wow.
But it's like, I mean, I got my ass kicked for that band, which I'm not the only one, you know, in the era of, like you're saying, like it's Kiss or AC/DC or whatever gets you into guitar. It's weird that, like, as the guitar player, like my favorite band was Devo, and guys wearing AC/DC and Kiss shirts were beating my ass because I would wear an Energy Dome to school, you know.
Wow.
That's the way the chips fell for me.
Yeah. It's funny because we're not that far apart, Bay Area, and then where you grew up, but you did grow up in that redneck kind of small town mind, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a complex socioeconomic problem up there, and now, like, the logging industry is gone or truncated. But back then it was in full swing, and logging is, I mean, it's a brutal industry to be involved in. It has the most deaths on site, has the most, you know, maiming and stuff going on. So it's really, really a rough existence. So, you know, there's some hard edge people around, and, you know, their kids are pretty hard edge too, because they're coming from a pretty tough background, and they're going to kick your ass when they see the nerd kid walking down the hallway speaking standard American English, you know, and not speaking all those local slang and shit. I had a target all over me. So it's, you know, yeah, I mean, there's something about, I had to put up a fight for it. And a lot of it wasn't the wisest strategies, you know, and it got pretty, but on the other hand, yeah, you know, life is hard. It's hard for everyone. And those guys, those bullies, I mean, they have a fucking hard life too. So
yeah,
you got to always keep all these things in mind.
Well, I think the bully, what really nobody talks about is the bully shines on them. They're afraid of the freedom that you have, meaning, like, they actually respect you. Like, this guy can really walk down the street and let people know who he is. I mean, that bully might have loved Prince or Earth, Wind and Fire or Devo, but he was so pressured by his dumb friends. All of them probably secretly listened to this stuff, but didn't want to tell each other.
Man, I think you put your finger right on it. It's the same thing with, like, gay bashing, homophobia, all that stuff. It comes from people repressing parts of themselves under duress, and then they lash out when they see somebody who has basically the balls to be themselves. I think you're 100% on target.
I believe it.
Yeah.
At any point, you being up in Northern California like myself, I grew up around a heavy Grateful Dead thing and absolutely hated it. because it was just in my face all the time. And now I love it more than anything, which is hilarious. I'm like this, 54-year-old deadhead, like, "Yeah, you guys heard this?" They're like, "Yeah, like 40 years ago." But did you get into any of Jerry's playing or a lot of, I know because you get into, different types of non-traditional playing, but that jamming and that artistic freedom of that, were you into it at all then?
Not so much from the Grateful Dead side of it, but we did. One of the important maybe moments in Mr. Bungle development, like all of us, was when we heard the Song X album, Ornette Coleman album, which is very kind of frantic, free-for-all seemingly, but and it has a collective improvisation backbone to it. It taught us that collective improvisation, being tuned in on a certain musical wavelength, was something that we could develop further amongst ourselves. So we started to embrace free improvisation at that point, probably more from a jazz theory thing than from a kind of, we weren't really into like the jam band thing, but for sure in our blood is the free improvisation ethic, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Any interest in the Dead now as you got older, like me, or just now?
Well, we also had, so Eureka is one town, and then the next town is Arcata.
Oh yeah,
a hippie town.
Yeah,
it's a Castor and Pollux type. It's a yin and yang situation. And we're from Eureka, and even though Eureka was, we spent all of our time in Arcata. Basically, we never got one gig in Eureka. Nobody would give us a gig there, so we could only get gigs in Arcata. So that audience was much more embracing of us. But at the same time, we had enough Eureka in us that we really enjoyed, being anti-Grateful Dead and anti-hippie, same as you were probably at that same
right.
I haven't had the moment to go back and reevaluate that stuff. However, I have done a bunch of tours with my band Secret Chiefs 3, where we've been invited onto different festivals that were more kind of jam band oriented. And I have to say that the listenership, it's a pleasant surprise to be, around really open-minded listeners, and because they're actually listening more carefully than you think. It's really pretty refreshing to have done some stuff in that scene and seen that, like, this could work for this music. They're open-minded enough that they could actually like this, even though it has like some fucking crazy stuff going on in it. So I'll give some credit.
Yeah. The audience is pretty, I mean, look, even like, say, Les Claypool stepping into that world and stuff, it really, if you're not into all the stuff, they're definitely into checking everything out. If it's a festival, they're like, "Hey, let's go check this guy out. He plays in Bungle or whatever, let's listen to this Primus side project or anything like that." They're down just to take in some music, which is pretty cool.
We did that band, Secret Chiefs. We went on several tours opening up for Les Claypool band with Skerrick and Mike Dillon, those guys. And yeah, man, what you're saying is totally right. It's a ripe audience for, you can reach those people, which is pretty nice.
At what point do you, because when I listen to Bungle and I think of Mike Patton, I've been a fan of Mike Patton since Bungle, and when I think about Patton, I think about, he has a sound, man. He really, it's just all over. It's cartoony. It's soulful. It's metal. It's thrash. But also I really think about Bungle is the guitar stuff. It's what's going on in there is atmospheric at times. It's metal at times, but it is as much of a sound of the band as the vocal is, which I think if you took either one away, there would be no Bungle.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, the guitar is in Mr. Bungle, the guitar since the 90s, or maybe starting with Disco Volante more, it's almost cast as an orchestral instrument, just one part of a much larger jigsaw puzzle. Like if you were to go in and, somebody asked me, like, play the riff from, Carry Stress on the Jaw, play the riff from Desert Search for Techno Allah, or play the riff from Sweet Charity. I mean, what? There's no riff. There's a little teeny part in there, and it all is part of this much larger orchestrated musical event. So in a way, the guitar, I wouldn't say that it's conducting, really. It's more like it takes its place in the ensemble. And that ensemble is something that, we collaboratively crafted. But I certainly had a hand in making everything kind of fit in the arrangements that I think comes from the guitar perspective.
Well, there's so many layers in Mr. Bungle. I mean, it's like you said, there's not just a riff or something. It's like the bed track is just mind boggling. You're like, wow,
Yeah. After a while, there is no riff at all. There's, they become multifaceted compositions that involve a huge number of instruments and, a whole ensemble.
I'm a huge fan of the Faith No More Angel Dust record. I think it's one of the greatest records ever to come out of the Bay Area, hands down. And of course, after that record, Jim's fired, and then you step in for King for a Day, and that is some massive shoes to step into. Not so much as playing, but as personality wise. What was that like for you?
Yeah, the thing for me was like listening to each band member's interpretation of what it meant to be the guitar player in Faith No More, which they couldn't be four more different perspectives. And, like hearing it from Mike Borden, he was probably the closest to saying like, yeah, you have big boots you got to fill. You have to step up and be that fucking guy, But then, I talked to Bill, and Bill would be like, man, fuck all that shit. We're starting out. We want to be able to do all of these other things with the guitar, and, I talked to Mike, and it would be like, not like Mr. Bungle. It's not like, hey, do a bunch of, let's see what kind of things we can come up with. It'd be more like, it's just like a fucking Black Flag, it's all downstroke, just, everybody's got a different take on it. I was like trying to mediate all of that. And then, after a while, it really just became the musical ideas had to be super strong. Otherwise, you got nothing to work with at all, So you're not going to make anybody happy unless you've got like a solid musical framework to work with. So I really just focused on, how to be the best guitar for this song, how to be the best guitar for this song. I guess the thing that I brought to the band was that flexibility, because they really had a lot of different ideas on that King for a Day record. It really couldn't have been a thing of be a strong musical personality and be, this thing. Because if you had tried to do that in that situation, you would have limited all of these other factors that they were trying to explore, So it was a trip. It was really a challenge.
Well, I think you succeeded, because whenever I say Angel Dust is the best Faith No More record, I could probably get about 5,000 DMs. King for a Day, King for a Day, King for a I mean, it is a serious argument. It's hilarious. And it's like, now I just do it for fun. You got to get back into King for a Day. And now I just fuck with him like, nah, nothing after Jim, just to get them, nothing after Jim. They just get so mad, which is funny.
I say the same thing to them. Like, they come to me with that stuff. I'm always like, Jim Martin was the guitar player for Faith No More. They really messed up when they fired him. I don't even know that I disbelieve that in some ways. Like, he casts a shadow that would be very hard to escape. I think that John Hudson is like, it's too bad they couldn't have started with him, because he's such a perfect guitar player for that band. It just took them a long time to find him.
Yeah, what happened? So you play on King for a Day, and then because I kind of lost track of what went down after that. And then do you just quit, or do they just say, this isn't really what we're looking for? What happened there?
Once we finished the record, there was like a 4-month period between that and the first show. And I pretty much gave them my notice within the first week of being finished with a record. And that was essentially my decision, because it's, there were a lot of like, maybe I was a little too sensitive to the issues that were going on between them at that time. But I just didn't feel like I had a place in it. It seemed like you're going to get caught up in something that was going to turn really ugly at some point. And I just felt like, I also have a strong personality, and they should probably just find somebody who can keep their head down and be cool with everything. I mean, the official story they told to sort of cover up, why would anybody quit Faith No More? It was, I remember reading in, I think it was NME, that I quit because I was the heir to the DuPont fortune and I couldn't be bothered to go out on tour. And while I'm going to fucking El Castilito Burrito, like scraping up money off my floor to get like the $2.63 to get a fucking burrito. It was really amazing.
That is classic, dude. Just
it was classic.
When do you think part of it was you're like, well, they're getting ready to go on tour, I just do not want to face the Jim Martin type of people that were just so like Jim?
No, I was ready for that. I feel like I had enough solid ground to stand on with the music and everything, and as the presence in the band, it was really more like, I didn't want to tax my friendship with Mike in the stressful situation that band was going through. That's one thing. Mike himself, before I joined the band, told me, this isn't a great situation. Like, for whoever's walking into this band right at this moment, it's not great. And then I realized what he meant by that by the end of the recording process. And
right.
That's just to walk away. On great terms with everyone. I mean, I love those guys. They're fucking the best.
Well, also Mike is like your friend since, high school or whatever. So
that was very precious to keep that, intact.
Absolutely. Friend over business anytime. I mean, even if you go into business with your friend and you can feel, if it's not music, it's anything, a hardware store or whatever, and you can feel that you might lose your friend over something at the end, it's better just to get out and say, hey, man, I don't want to lose you as a buddy over this thing. Yeah.
I really felt like it was like going to implode, thankfully I was wrong, but it just really felt like it was all going to really collapse to me,
I went to the Fonda show. It's fantastic, by the way. So smoking. Those gigs were just, man, I had a massive smile on my face, and there were so many friends backstage there, and we were all just like nudging each other, like, there I am at the Stone again, 1990. That's what it felt like.
That's what we wanted. Yeah, we were going for that, man.
Yeah.
We were going for it.
But right after you do these, you go into Gorill's studio. One thing, why did you guys choose 606, and who produced this? I didn't get the note on who produced it.
We had a couple of options for where we would record it. 606 seemed like the perfect place. They have everything there. It's just so ready to go. Such an easy place to walk into and feel comfortable. It was kind of a no-brainer, actually. We went in with Husky Huskwolds, who tracked the record with us, and the whole approach was essentially pre-production. Like, the gigs were pre-production. How would Rick Rubin produce this record? Well, he would make sure the band was well rehearsed and poke his head in the door during the recording every once in a while. It's really more about capturing that kind of raw essence. If you're going to do like 1986 thrash metal justice, I think it has to be that way. So kind of a stripped down recording approach, and just bang it out fast. Don't do, I think we recorded in 10 days or so. Like, Scott's and my guitars we're all in the room together playing, and man, at least 95% of what you hear on the guitar was right there in the room. We just punched in where we botched really hard, So that was like the approach was very non-invasive, minimalistic production on the front end. Like, you know, Husky really just kind of captured what was going on with the band. And then after some overdub of the vocals, same with the vocals, a lot of the scratch vocals are on the record. The bass is all like right there in the room. So subsequent overdubbing of vocals, couple guitar solos, and then it was mixed by Jay Rustin, who did a marvelous job interpreting what we were trying to accomplish, you know, with the because it's not, stripped down is a misnomer. Like, yeah, Rick Rubin, hands-off approach, but guess who's sitting there? Andy Wallace is the engineer on that fucking Rain and Blood. So, you know what I mean? It's not that it's not produced, but as a listener and maybe as a band, you got to think that, yeah, this is not so produced. I have more of a background in production. So like that whole time where those words are coming out of everyone's mouth, I'm like,
yeah,
I have to do something about the final here. And Jay was just a perfect guy for that. Like he totally understood from the beginning. We're going for this transparent fucking thrash sound. He nailed it.
I'm a giant Rick Rubin fan, and I've talked to a lot of bands that have worked with him. Some bands loved it, some bands didn't. But I think, like what you said, where he just pokes his head in to see what's going on, he knows when to stay the fuck away, and he knows when to get into the mix. And I think that's mainly the problem, that the bands that didn't like working with him probably didn't understand his hands-off approach, his more of his Buddha spiritual, let's see these guys, you know, smash the chemistry. Let's get the lightning in the bottle. And I don't need to be in here stroking my beard, telling these guys what the fuck's going on.
Exactly. It's the front end. It's the pre-production stuff that's the most important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's a master of that. There's no question.
I mean, you know, you look at the track record and you just go like, there's no one that's greater than him. Maybe the Beatles producer, as far as like what was coming out in such a short amount of time and the experimentation. But to go from Slayer to Johnny Cash to Tom Petty's Wildflowers to Dixie Chicks, it's just, the guy understands chemistry.
I mean, he's got Run DMC in the studio during Rain and Blood at the same time.
Yeah. There you go.
Down the hall.
Yeah, there you go. You know what I mean? It's just like, and there's a guy who, like I said, loved all types of music and didn't care what anybody thought. You're not going to box me in. I'm not the Slayer metal producer. I'm also doing Run DMC and I'm doing Four Horsemen, you know? So it's, the guy's unbelievable. Now, when you guys tracked the record, I don't know, did the original demo, was it a 4-piece band?
Yeah.
And so when you bring Scott in, which by the way, genius, Scott and Dave are just the kings of that. There's no one better. You brought in the mojo, you know?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And it's incredible. They hadn't really played much together, you know? So
right.
That was nice.
When you brought in Scott though, did you have in mind like, okay, other guitar parts always, and thought we better get a second guy?
I hadn't originally been thinking anything like that. Like Patton was he really wanted to focus on like the craziness of the guitar solos and having the bottom kind of drop out and having it be empty when that happens is kind of not great, not ideal. So when we started to talk about like, essentially like, you know, the way this whole thing even started was after Trevor had the idea with Lombardo sitting there, I think it was like a year passed before anything happened. It was like, you know, nothing was happening because it was just an idea that got thrown out there and we laughed about. But then Lombardo called me and he's like, hey man, let's surprise those guys and let's get me and you work the songs out. Can you make me some demos, you know, and I can learn the tunes. To which, you know, it's like I had to go back and like figure out all the tempos and all this stuff. All right, man, I'll make a map for you. once that thing was out of the bag and it was like, okay, this is a real thing and it's going to happen. That's when I think like it went into Patton's head. It's like, man, we should have a second guitar player. And he had some ideas of who to use. But when the name Scott Ian came up, it was like, do you think that's even possible? Because if it is, that's like a dream. Couldn't be more perfect. We are in 1985 writing those songs. And what are we listening to? We're listening to SOD. We're listening to Fistful of Metal. That right hand is like what the whole thing is about. Would he do it? Is this possible? And when we asked him, he, to our surprise, we found out that he had the demo.
Yeah.
He had a cassette of this rare ass demo. And secondly, he thought that we were just asking him to come to a show, when it turns out we were asking him to be in the fucking band, So it was like magic, you can't script it anymore magically. It was amazing.
Scott Ian is so underrated. It blows my mind. And I personally think it was mostly because Anthrax was an East Coast band at that time. But, SOD is so mind-boggling to me. I can't believe these snippets of ultimate metal hardcore riffs.
Yeah.
And tons of them.
Yeah, millions of them. And tone. He is a tone master.
Oh.
I'm like a little ant compared to him on the tone thing. Like, because I focus on like music theory and arrangement stuff. I don't really think about guitar that much. And my God, standing next to somebody who knows as much about tone as he does, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different profession. He's an absolute beast of that.
I love him. I love him, man. And he's a absolute music freak, totally. And he's a gear freak. I love him. He's always surprising me with stuff like the Karina Jackson V, because I love Karina Gibson Vs and the checkerboard V, paying homage to Rick, Cheap Trick, and it just his whole thing. I just love it. He's all, the Public Enemy stuff, all that, man. It's just the guy is just next level to me.
Yeah, he's a real guitar player,
Yeah,
a true real guitar player.
When you were a kid playing the thrash metal, what was your equipment? Did you have a V and a Marshall? What was going on?
I had a PV Renown amp and a G&L F100, which is a pretty cool guitar, actually.
Oh, that's a great guitar. You still got it?
I still have it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I had. I didn't even have, I think I had a combo, an Ibanez distortion. It had a tube screamer, a chorus, and a compressor or something on it. It's like this little combo box. It sounded like hell.
Now, did the G&L have those weird pickups with the screws in it? What were those? Was that just Leo Fender's pickup?
I guess, yeah. Those are really weird, but they were super high output humbuckers, crazy, crazy loud, amazing.
And did yours have the splitting coil switch?
What's that?
Does yours have the splitting coil switch on the guitar?
Yeah, it had 3 switches. So I have no idea even what those are. So it must have been.
Yeah, coil splitters. You could go single coil, so you could have a single coil Strat sound.
That makes sense because I would use that. I use that guitar all the way up. Like I think I played it even on Disco Volante, like for the surf guitar. I remember always like messing with the switches and then being like, it's weird. You can actually get it to sound kind of like a Strat. Well, there you go. I never even knew that.
Wow, I love you. That's great. You're so anti-guitar. I love it. Like you play it, but it's just your crescent wrench for the whole, to get all the bolts.
That's exactly right. Yeah. But I have to admit that now in this era with this going back to this stuff, I've had to step up a bit and like try to become a guitar player for the first time in my whole life.
I love it. Where are you living at, man?
I just moved to Arizona. I got to tell you, 20 years I was living in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and myself and my wife have been renovating that house for the last 3 years, like, doing all the carpentry stuff ourselves mostly. And, it was hard. The house sat on the market for like a year, And then luckily, it's weird. You know, the pandemic actually helped the sale of it because people wanted to get out of San Francisco because of the fucking dystopian nightmare that city has become.
Oh my God.
You know, so they want to run up to the hills. I mean, it's not just hills. It's like deep redwood forest, 220-foot trees. Like, you know, I'm at the end of this long mountain road.
Pretty secluded, huh?
Very secluded. Yes, very. And so kind of a hard sell to, you know, tech people who want to do the commute down to San Jose. We thought that would go quicker, but it didn't. With the pandemic hit, the guy from San Francisco bought the place, which was amazing. But man, not 20 days later, after the deal closed, that lightning complex fire hit. And it came up essentially to the doorstep of that house. Like, you know, that house was spared. And then the little neighborhood was spared. Like everything around there got destroyed. It was like one of the worst areas to be. And I mean, I am the luckiest fucking guy in the world. However, all of my stuff was still up there in storage. And so, you know, my wife and I just like frantically got this big 26-foot box truck and made the 13-hour drive up to try to get my instruments, get my computers. I have all the records I'm working on them.
Oh.
You know, get the record collection, just like throwing the stuff in the truck. Meanwhile, there's like guys showing up and the ashes are falling out of the sky and the mandatory evacuation stuff the sirens are going on. Guys are pulling out their guns and shit.
Whoa.
Like, let's get the fuck out of here. You know, it was a really harrowing scene. I'm fucking glad to be out of there. There's lots of things that could have gone wrong besides the fire. The fire was always on my mind. We know it's coming, you know. Unfortunately, there's so many issues with living up in those mountains or in any fucking mountains in California that, you know.
Oh, now it's unreal. It's just fires every year.
Every year, yeah.
And San Francisco, man, what a shit show now, you know. Like, I mean, how much has that place changed since we were there?
And the thing is, like, I've been watching it now for however many decades. There's a lyric in a Mr. Bungle song, like a frog that doesn't know the jacuzzi's getting hotter, in the song Egg, you know, how frogs can just get overcome when the jacuzzi heats up because they don't notice the small increments of heat. That to me describes San Francisco perfectly. Like, if you're in your iPhone bubble walking around, at what point do you notice the smell of shit coming off the sidewalk, the human misery all around you, the needles hanging out of people's arms, just the complete disaster, the socioeconomic disaster that's happening right there, everywhere. It's not just in one neighborhood. It's all over the fucking place. I mean, how far out of this iPhone bubble do you have to come? Not very far. It's right there, everywhere. It wasn't the pandemic that caused this. That place had gone to absolute shit so long ago.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's just over the edge. I mean, the pandemic just shoved it over the edge, you know.
And the mountain of greed, man. The mountain of greed is just unreal. Of the, you know, $8,000 one-bedroom apartments, you know, it's to drive out all the artists and get rid of the soul of the city. It's just mind-boggling to me.
I mean, yeah, that job they did on us. I was there up until the end of the 90s.
Yeah, the .com.
Yeah, the .com. That was like when everybody left, right?
That was it.
I made it till 2000, like 1999. But in the ensuing 20 years, it's not like anything got any better, you know?
No.
Some people got a lot richer. Everything else got so much worse, and nobody said anything. It just like so weird to me that, I mean, if you're a visitor from Europe or something, yeah, you'll notice. But for some reason, like Californians would just like block all of that out.
Yeah.
But then turn around and talk about compassion and all of this stuff. It's just the hypocrisy just becomes so disgusting after a while. One of the main reasons that, you know, feel like I really just had to get away, like completely away, as far away as I could get from the Bay Area in general. I just hate the mentality so much. I have to admit that it sucks to have to say it that way, but I can't fucking handle it anymore.
Yeah, the James Hetfield, you know, I'm fucking out of here. You know, it's like, I get it, man. I mean, you and I grew up in an era where it was complete art and I say it many times. I remember when no one wanted to live in San Francisco. They wanted to live in Walnut Creek and Marin, and San Francisco was blue collar. Plumbers lived there, electricians, families, and it was just this great place. A $5 burrito, a $2 beer, and $250 rent. And of course, I'm not the idiot that thinks like, it should stay like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when you zap out the soul of the city, the artists, when you have no art in the city anymore and it's just all tech and greed, well, just you're staying in your $8,000 one bedroom box and just surfing the net, and there's nothing to do anymore, and there's nothing cool, and outside is dangerous because it's loaded with people that couldn't afford it. And then that whole thing of the first .com, and I think it was 96 when they were just all the clubs closed and everything because, property owners are like, wait a minute, your lease is up. Now it's going to be $1 million a year. They're like, what?
And we built a high rise that has like live workspaces right down here, and they're going to have a noise problem. They're going to complain about the noise.
Yeah, that's what happened to Slim's. Where the fucking noise? There's a club down there. It's like, yeah, they've been here 30 years.
And why did you move to San Francisco when you could have moved to San Jose where you work at Google? Why do you need to commute and live in the cool city and then shut everything down because you're living next door to where things are actually happening? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I'll also say, if you're in Sioux City, South Dakota, like it's not really about the artists getting pushed out. The thing you said, I think, is right. You got the electrician, you have basically the stable middle class thing happening. And when that gets specifically targeted, like it gets not just in San Francisco, but really like even in Santa Cruz where I was living. I mean, I had a little back house that I would rent out. There were guys calling me who wanted to come work as guys like laying the gravel, right, for the roads. They couldn't come to live there for that job because they got a good job, good paying job. But they couldn't find anywhere to live because everything is too expensive. So it's like, what are we going to do? We're going to pay that guy to commute from Reading?
Yeah. Yeah. What? I get it.
And that's what happened to San Francisco. There is nobody, it's not very many people there who do the job. So they have to outsource all of that. It's completely unsustainable. You can't just have all super rich tech people and not have a middle class doing stuff. It's ridiculous.
It really is. Where are they're coming in from, Fresno. They're coming in. They do. They come in from Fresno and out there on the 99, all those small towns. You see the traffic to go out there every day. I know. It's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And those people there should be enough of them living at least within a reasonable zone, but there's not a chance in hell of that happening.
Nope. It's going to take a long time for the artist to be able to come back in there and maybe rejuvenate it.
I wonder. I think New York has a better chance of that than San Francisco. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It would take decades.
We will see. Where are you at in Arizona? Sedona or something?
In Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix. Right on. How do you like that?
I love it. I can't believe it. Like everybody, we've been talking about this for years, coming here, and all of my California friends are always like, Phoenix. Oh, God. It's like, okay, keep thinking that, man. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. It's fucking great here.
Yeah.
I love it here. I mean, I told you about where we used to live. I'm a recluse, right? I like to live privately and away from everyone. And you can do that within, it's not within Phoenix city limits, but this whole huge area, there's a lot of seclusion actually that's possible that you can enjoy for about, I don't know, a quarter of the price of what you get in California. It's a nice place. I love it. People are polite. They don't drive like assholes. I mean, everything's good.
Gas is cheap. Car registration's cheap. Property's cheap. Car insurance is cheap.
You got solar taking care of your electricity. Like we have a solar array here. And it's like, again, you talk about the environmental stuff and unsustainable things. And like, no, man, it's not only that I'm paying less. I'm providing sustainably for it's a sustainable model for the most part. There's some things that aren't, but
Yeah.
nothing's perfect. It's better, I'll tell you that.
I love Cave Creek, man.
Oh yeah, that's funny. Wow, so you've been here a bit.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm a guy, when I go to a city, and I was on the road, I would get out and hit the cities. Hey, what's cool around here? Yeah. What is there here? And I would go find it.
Yeah, that's the way to be. We're still unpacking, man. We haven't explored really hardly at all. But
Yeah.
We've seen enough to know that it's a good spot.
Well, congrats, man. And
Thank you.
I'm bummed what's going on. This is way beyond insanity, COVID and everything, but music's getting us through it. A lot of new music coming out, new AC/DC's coming out, the Bungles coming out. Just stuff to listen to. That Prince Sign of the Times box set. This gives me time to go through four fucking hours of Prince music, It's a different frame of mind now. I think people have slowed down and they can sit down and go, oh, Bungle, and listen to it instead of just streaming it for a minute and moving on,
Man, I hope you're right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, maybe a little bit more contemplative way of listening to music as a positive result of all this stuff.
Yeah. I'm doing a Bungle week, the week the record comes out. Each day I'm going to drop one. I've never done it before. I just think I think it'd be a cool idea each day. I usually put out a podcast every Monday. I've done it for 9 years. But I thought, let's do a Bungle week.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow. I appreciate that. That's cool.
Yeah. Maybe Mike will catch wind one day and surprise me and talk to me.
You never know.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do you personally have an Instagram or anything, or are you secluded off the digital world also?
I got an Instagram a couple months ago. Yeah. So I actually have one.
So did Mike. I was like, this is so not him. It was so funny. It was like, Mike Patton's on Instagram. I go, no, he's not. Hey,
I was reluctantly dragged to it, but I dove in finally.
And what is it?
Oh, just Trey Spruance.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking forward to hopefully one day you guys get to play live, tour again. And and congrats on this. And I made it, man. The some of the last shows I saw was the Slayer final shows, and then the Bungle shows, and then I did a big show in town with a bunch of comedians and musicians, tribute to Bon, and then the next day the whole city was shut down. So those are the last 3 live events I saw, and they're pretty damn great memories. The Bungle shows, man. I mean, I talked to Trevor about it just to hear the Cro-Mags song. I mean, that Age of Quarrel is the greatest record ever made in hardcore. And, Yeah,
that was really fun. I'm sure he told you about when Harley came on stage in New York.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, Harley played with us. He played that tune with us.
Wow, bass?
He played bass.
Wow.
It was sort of it was one of those things like, how's this going to go?
Yeah.
But it was great.
Yeah.
He's such a sweet person. And,
I had John Joseph on the podcast. He's great.
He's great.
Yeah.
Super, super nice guy. His wife is really nice.
Yeah.
I think it's his wife.
Yeah. Super positive, vegan, triathlon.
Yeah.
He's got a masterpiece under his belt, the high water mark. It's unbelievable, that record. But, oh man, and Speak Spanish or Die, just a middle finger to just a racism. I love it.
Oh, God. Yeah, I know, man. That was a great opportunity, doing that. When that idea came up, I was just like, yes.
Before we get out of here, one last question. Were you surprised at how, like, from Mike Patton when you were young to where he is now, how many sounds and what he became as a musician, singer, songwriter and stuff? Like, I mean, there's so much depth there, and mystique.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that Trevor and he and I are really, I'm not surprised at all. It's natural to the three of us, that kind of range, I guess. If you look at Trevor's career and all of the different kinds of things he's done, as a bassist, it's similarly like, flexible and gymnastic. And I definitely have had my hands in all, like, so many different kinds of cookie jars that it's, when I see what Mike has done, it's sort of like, I'm always proud that, like, wow, he never pulled back, he stayed completely true to that, which I think all of us have is, we're explorers, but I mean, what a real explorer does is, it's not like you're experimenting when you're making the record or when you're executing. The explorer, like, finds the place that they're going to go, then makes a plan and then does it. That's what Patton, Patton and Trevor and myself are all. The spirit of our exploration is about that. Half of the thing is experimenting and exploring, and then the other half is executing, keeping the standards really high. Like, that's the whole game, man.
Yeah, man, it's real. I was telling Trevor that it gave me a constant reminder of the barometer of, like, I've said it before. Yeah, I got to do Instagram because it's part of the biz, but also I know kind of where to pull back from following, like, a Bungle, Patton, Bay Area, Metallica, grassroots kind of, whoa, watch out here, try to own your masters, try to challenge yourself, try to ask questions that you're considered, difficult to work with, and all that, man, where it's just like, yeah, man, these guys are pure artists, and it's for them to go back and you and the guys to do this first demo is really radical and cool.
Man, I appreciate you taking it that way. We feel, I don't think we could have felt more at home with it doing anything else than just straight up embracing the thrash metal beginnings. And it's been so great that it has been understood by people like yourself, that there's people who have, who it's graded on them. Like, I want the avant-garde Mr. Bungle of the 90s kind of thing. And I get what they're saying. Like, I understand that. But if they understand it from our perspective, I'm not asking everybody to like thrash metal necessarily, but you got to understand that's where we come from. And this is part of the deal, man. That's how you can't be in denial about that. They say, go back to the real Mr. Bungle. Like, well, we're going back to the real Mr. Bungle. Take it or leave it,
It's true. It's called roots, man. It's called roots. It'd be like seeing, it'd be like seeing the Stones and be like, only play the covers era. You know what I'm saying? It's who you guys are. And thrash metal is such a big thing to me. I just feel so proud of it. I did a full month of January, Thrash January, where one day I was just like, you know what? I need to talk to all these guys that I grew up watching and hanging out with. Most of us are still alive, not all of us, but it was so monumental. As much as people talk about the grunge era, I'm like, this is so bigger than grunge as far as what it did to the musical landscape and bands to be able to get deals that weren't sexy guys and all that. And,
I know. And you think about what an aberration this music is. I mean, the idea of, like, how the whole conversation started was like palm muting, maybe the Judas Priest level or whatever, but taking it into this twisted domain where it's going super fast, drums that if they have a backbeat, they're going about this fast. Fastest thing before that would be polka, right? And here it goes to, it's just a completely fucking crazy aberration of music. Distortion going beyond where, the fuzz pedals and it just turns into this absolute fucking intentional mayhem.
Yeah.
And yet it becomes a substantial force in music to the point where, it's getting signed to major record labels and all that. it's an incredible transformation over 10 years.
The olive branch of the whole thing. What I try to tell people is what you don't understand is, yeah, we got this music, but everything else that grew out of this, the EMG 81 pickup, all of a sudden EMG's on the map, Mesa Boogie triple rectifier, all of a sudden Boogie's on the map other than Santana. And then, you know, Grover Jackson. Are you fucking crazy? This guy basically dominated the metal guitar world. We're talking Gibson and Fender, and then all of a sudden Grover Jackson for years. So everything that was coming out of that.
Yeah, no, it's true. It makes a huge difference. Like, I bought a Schecter, and I talked to them when I was down in LA, and like, I didn't even know I could play guitar that way until I had an instrument that was capable of doing all of these very metal things. You know, I never even tried before that, except for when I was a little kid playing the GNL. You know, but now you have these weapons. I mean, they're just like crafted weapons that are made from making metal.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And these companies are making great money by doing the research and going, we can make it even more metal. Can you imagine the meeting? Just two guys, dude, must be more metal. 7-string. Okay, let's do an 8-string, 6 pickups, 15, you know, Mesa Boogie triple rectifier. No, we got 6 channels now. It's all molten. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Thanks, man, for doing the show. Looking forward to the Bungle Week. And I wish you luck out there in Phoenix and happiness. And I love you, man. Thanks for doing this. And thanks for writing these riffs and shit over the years.
Man, I totally appreciate so much. Yeah, it's great talking to you, man.
Thank you, brother. I'll see you later.
Okay, and I'll look forward to the Bungle Week.
Oh, it's going to be good, man. It's going to be good. See ya, man.
See you, man.